here with my boy Rob. Excited to be doing this conversation today. Rob, how you doing?
I'm feeling good, my man. I want just like I told you before, and I'm even up to tell everyone now. The computer was like, "Hey, man, we're not doing this interview today," and I said, "Nope, no, we are." 'Cause I'm a transparent man. Call me Mr. Cellophane, bro. I am transparent. So everything's cool, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited to be here with author Avante Williams, man. Or
Ah, man, I appreciate that.
hey, man, of
No,
course,
I
bro.
truly
Very
appreciate
excited,
that.
man.
I know it's
Yep.
been a minute for all those who are listening and who are hopping on live as y'all are joining in. It's been a minute since we've gotten to do one of these. I haven't done an episode of Talks and Hip Hop since about March, which was right before Power Beats and Rhymes came out, hit shelves and everything. And this is also the year of me running my business for the first year. So I didn't realize that like there is a
Yep.
possibility of having too many things on your plate at one time. And yeah, when it got time to the launch of the book, the podcast had to get put on pause. And during that period of time, I got to kind of enjoy like, okay, cool, book is done. I've got my business. I'm in this new mode. So what do I want to do? And part of that led to a lot of reflection on the podcast and was like, the original goal was really to get very deep into some very specific things. And I realized honestly, there's just been so much I've learned from artists, from people who are just walking the journey, who are on their own path, who are making things happen, whether in a business, outside of a business, and they've never been able to do it alone. They've always done it with other people. And so, in this
Yep.
new chapter, new season of Talks in Hip Hop, name pending because that's probably going to change too. It's been about sitting down with folk and hearing their conversations and really opening up this is a platform for people to tell their stories and really focus on how you got to where you are. So with that being said, I'm so excited for the first guest in this season 2 in this new mode of Talks and Hip Hop is none other
Hell
than
yeah.
Rob Rico. Now, for y'all who are like children of the internet like me, you probably remember epic rap battles of history. That was some absolute grade A YouTube pre-content creator stuff.
Yep.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh, it was hilarious and historically accurate was the best
And
part.
historically accurate. Yep. Yep. You learn shit, dude. You learn shit, and you're like, these guys are talking shit, but I'm learning something. Like, I
Right.
wish real rap battles could be like that, you
Oh
know?
my goodness. I remember
Yeah.
like it was like Newton versus like Einstein or one of those
Yeah.
like I mean y'all even did
Yeah.
like MLK and some stuff that was like wild and out there but it was amazing
Yep.
but Rob,
Yep.
you have this amazing story. You're the first Latino rapper to appear on the
Yeah,
show,
man.
right? You
Hell
just
yeah.
told me you've got a double album that you've just released after spending the pandemic writing. And, we all had our
Yep.
pandemic modes, but to be productive and to create a double album during that time is serious work. And so I'm just excited to have
Appreciate
you
that.
on. We get to talk about your journey, who you are, and how you got to where you are.
I greatly appreciate that, man. It was a long journey, man. It was a 100% long journey. If there's one thing anyone takes from this immediately is that nothing happens fast or overnight. Easy come, easy go. Um, the condensed version of it is I started out in high school. Like the moment I was in high school, I was like, I don't know if this path is right for me per se, because you're like, do I necessarily need a degree for this or that or that. And when I started feeling that way, my senior, like I went to continuation school, and I know my parents will hate that I'm even mentioning that in the first 5 minutes. I went to continuation school because my focus was like, I want to go home and play my keyboard. I want to go home and play my guitar. I was like, in my head, I was like, the Boston Tea Party isn't gonna help me put a chord progression together. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what the hell are they gonna teach me about music theory? Like taxes and the economics and shit, poli sci, and even earlier than that, dude. Because I gotta be grateful to my parents, dude. Like when I was young, my parents were super into music. My Belizean side of the family super into music. My grandpa plays guitar, like Spanish guitar, still to this day, like a champ,
Wow.
dude. Yeah, dude. My pops, some of my earliest memories are sitting in the car with my pops and him playing Air Supply and Journey and being like, dude, listen to not just the words he's saying, but like the passion this dude's got in his voice, man. So like like being versed with Steve Perry and like all of those artists like touch into my hip hop like that. But to fast forward, like I said in high school, when I turned 17, we were by a college, and I got into performance classes like immediately. I was 17 years old, like with these like grown ass adults who were like really good at this stuff, and
Wow.
I'm just like, yeah, yeah, dude, and I barely knew piano enough that even the professor's like, hey man, let me. He didn't like shun me. He's like, let's just do these chords and let's see what you can do, because and that's something I appreciate that the older generations like let's not shun you, let's give you the tools, let's motivate you. That led me to taking some classes where I met my man Sam Siege, who like I mentioned before is the Almighty. We had 12 names because every rap group changes their names. We were the Almighty, KMKCK, Misfit Coalition, dude. But we landed on the Almighty. Shout out Illa and Sick Calicos, because when we started rapping and doing smaller shows in our venues in Palmdale, we didn't have Wango Tango. We had Mango Tango,
Oh my
which
gosh.
yeah, yeah, the kids don't know about Kiss FM Mango Tango. They don't know about that. This is an old head podcast today. This first episode is an old head podcast. These kids are gonna be Googling all of this shit.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, dude, we were doing that show, and we met this gentleman, Illicit Calicos, and again, dude, grateful because they were in it for a minute, and they were like these young guys, they've got passion, and they started, guiding us and teaching us, dude, bringing us out to Los Angeles, and that's where I learned my artistry from. I eventually came out here to go to school at the College of Contemporary Music, also known as the Musicians Institute, and that's when our family wasn't doing too well, dude. I had to work very hard just to get my $300 entry submission application thing for school.
Wow.
And yeah, dude, and I remember when I gave him that $300, I was like, all right, I now have $40 for the week, you know?
Hmm.
It's like type situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been
So when I
there.
so when yeah, yeah, right, right. And so that immediately set my mindset apart from a lot of the students there, dude. Because I thought about it this morning. I was like, the first week there, they had this thing that was like a school, like not resources, but like get involved,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
government, student government for music. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to get involved with that. I was the only person that showed up. I was the one guy. Yeah, dude. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I went into the room, and there was like one old dude, and he's like, hey man, and I'm like, oh shit. So it's like that. He goes, yeah, man, we're probably not gonna be doing this again. So I
Ah,
was like, all
man.
right, yeah,
Wow. But it's
yeah. But
funny,
I'll fast.
Sorry, go
Yeah, go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah, yeah, well, that led into me just talking about opportunities and take it seriously. I was there for 2 semesters. The program that I was in, bro, was 2 semesters. We couldn't afford going to that school too long. I was there for 2 semesters, and I found out that 2 semesters was the minimum to get an internship at the companies or at these places. So I was like, two semesters. Let me get my internship. I got blessed with an internship with the Marley family. From there, I love talking. It's gonna be long, but from there, I found the West Side Comedy Theater because that's where I found out Lloyd from the Epic Rap Battles of History. He owned that club, and I watched that from college, and I was like, I want to be in that environment. I worked there from a door person not getting paid to becoming a night manager to like watching their parties and stuff, and then after like a couple years, I got lucky enough, dude. Lloyd was having a birthday party, and he tapped me, dude. He said, "Hey, bro, you want to drop a 16 at my concert?" Dude, I wrote the best 16 I ever wrote in my life. I forgot it the moment I got on stage, but I freestyled my way out of it, and they offered me to tour for a couple years. And when I was done touring, Lloyd offered me that he saw me form as an artist, and he offered me the job as a Che Guevara, as a as the Epic Rap Battles, dude. Yeah. So that's the
Man.
long story. That's the condensed version of it. There's like so many different pockets and novels in between, bro.
Wow, man. That's an amazing
Yeah,
story though. And I think it's so
yeah.
interesting that
It's a
you
lot.
you said at the beginning that like you were skipping out of school to go focus on music because you're like, I don't know how taxes and history are going to play into it. And then where do you end
Yeah.
up working is like the most comedic educational hip hop space possible.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like y'all ended up, I mean, Epic Rap Battles of History was mainly for middle and high schoolers, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
like it introduced them to historical figures. So look at that full circle for you. To, you know, to be like, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
focus on music theory. And it's like, well, now you're gonna use that music theory to teach history, to teach these things in a
Yeah.
completely different way.
Dude, it's cool too because when you're writing music for yourself, there's whatever limitations that you give yourself for the song, whether it's three or four verses or whatever, no chorus or anything. But when you're writing for like a certain subset of audience that these guys have established, like you were saying, like, you know, middle school, high school, which I would even argue, dude, like college level, like some mid 30s, because Zach, like shout out nice Pete Shukoff, man, and Lloyd and Zach Sherwin, dude.
Yeah.
Their writing process is remarkably intelligent, dude. They do their research, they get in depth, and I was lucky enough to sit in the writers' room where they're Zach Sherwin especially, man. I'm not saying, but that dude is remarkable with his brain and thinking process. They're not they're making it for a smart audience, and I think
Well,
that lands very well with their series.
Well, let's talk about their process for a second there, because I
Yeah.
think this is something that gets skipped over a lot, and it's one of the reasons that I was like, I really want to kind of reformat this show to just focus on story and process. Is that
Yeah.
there's so much work that goes
Mm.
into, you know, a 5 minute, 3 minute video that is
Yep.
popping up, you know, with
Yep.
two historical figures rapping, right? Like
Yep. Yep.
when you got to see that process up close for what you can share with us, right? Like, what is that process like? What does it actually take to come up with something that, of course, is going to be consumed in like, again, 4 minutes?
3 4 minutes. Yep. Yep. It's I think what's cool is I think everybody has their different process and their different approaches. I know for myself, and also shout out to my brother Bill because he helped for that writing process for me as well. Um, my personal approach is learning as much history as I can about the person. Because I also do a show called Pass the Mic where it's like a live version of Epic Rap Battles,
Dope.
and I'll get all of the history, yeah, and I'll put it on like a notepad, and I'll be like, all right, uh, like for Che Guevara or for Guy Fawkes, his name is Fox. This is just a terrible example, but there's Guy Fawkes. His name is Fox, and at that time, again for the internet children, the one of the things was, what does the fox say?
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, what does the fox
If
say?
I
And we
say
put that,
that.
yeah, that. And you know what? I hope this is posted to an ERB chat board because that was arguably one of the most hated lines in that entire song, dude. You can go in the comment section. They will put, "Damn, Che killed it," but that Fox line, what the hell? But I will fight tooth and nail because that was my bar. I was like, bro, what the Fox say, man? The kids are gonna eat this shit up. Excuse my language. These kids are gonna eat it up, man. They tore me down the same day they built me up. But yeah, man, this
Wow.
yeah. That is the worst line as an example. But
Sure.
that's my process. And my brother Bill though, he's much more wittier when it comes to writing. He carries a notepad and just registers shit all the time. And we will all submit it, all of the lines, and we'll be like, this works, almost like Frankensteining it together, and then creating like maybe like a new flow or progression based off of what we've got, in my experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So it's
how it
very
works.
collaborative. Like y'all are really
Super,
bringing this together.
super collaborative, dude. And that's something that music needs a little more of, is that collaboration, dude. If you're by yourself and you're just getting that one angle, you're gonna get one opinion and one route.
Yeah.
You got to get multiple people in there, man.
Well, I think it's so funny because like we like comparing it to like mainstream hip hop for a sec, right? We look at
Hmm.
hearing behind the scenes stories of guys like Kendrick, who you know,
Hmm.
absolutely phenomenal lyricist rapper, and they're like, yeah, when he's working in the studio, he like hears the beat and he's like, all right, cool, I'll be back, and he just like walks
Yeah,
off, and then he comes back with a finished joint, and
yeah,
like I saw that thing. It was rolling around social media on YouTube, and all my friends, especially those who were like
yeah.
coming up in rap, were like, "Yo, this is ill, this is how it should be done. And I'm like, no, man, do you not see the confusion on everybody else's face in the room when he's like that's his way of handling stuff is different. But for the
Mm-hmm.
majority of it, right? And even the way that he works with his producers and everything, it's to this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's highly
Yeah.
collaborative. It may just
Not
be you in
100%.
front of the mic on the video, but
Yeah.
pulling all that together, that I like that concept of how y'all really are like bringing all these pieces forward and then Frankensteining it
Mm-hmm.
to say like this is the
Yeah.
best of what all of us can do.
And I'll even one up you there, bro, because it's even beyond the collaboration. I feel like there's a separation of ego and humility
Hmm.
to have an appreciation for what other people can offer. Because when you can separate yourself from your work, you can allow other people to do what they need to within the project and let it grow. But like for
Yeah.
example, myself, yeah, for example, myself, I know I'm a songwriter. I make compositions on piano and things like that, but my main bread and butter is my ability to songwrite. Tupac was only a songwriter, you know? He
Hmm.
he he wasn't the beat maker and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
recognize that. So when I get my beats from my producers, dude, I treat it like a golden egg because I'm like, mother effer, I can't do that. And that gives me the appreciation for it. And I
Yeah,
think that's what
absolutely.
that's what allows me to open up and make it better and let it flow more. Hmm.
That's cool because like it means you have to intentionally set space to be collaborative, right? Like you gotta
Yes.
you may have this time where you're doing work, and I want to talk to y'all about it, the research as well, because like that's the other
Yep.
thing is y'all are dropping like actual factual knowledge in these joints. So like there's a research
Yeah.
component to the inspiration to the writing,
Yep.
but regardless of everything you're doing solo, you have to have a time where y'all are bringing it back to the crew. Y'all are working on it
Yep.
together before it,
100%.
it goes. And I like how you said like there's no ego in that, right? Like you have to
Yeah.
be able to kind of separate you from your bars because they
Yep.
may not make the cut, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Even for when you're writing like normal music, or even like you're writing a book, maybe like you're writing a
Yeah,
chapter or something like that, and you're like, damn, I really want this paragraph in here. I want this chapter in here, and you're like, I it just doesn't fit. And
right.
sometimes you gotta cut it and put it away. Like to miraculously segue this back to my album. Um, I wrote this dope verse, dude. I'm good at this, man. That's that stage
I
presence.
like it. I like it.
Um, when I was writing during the pandemic, dude, I wrote this groovy hook for a song called Kings. Or I found this beat. I found this beat. I was, I'm transparent, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like any other artist. I was on the John going through beats, dude. I was on the
Mm.
John and I found this beat. It was a Kings, and I was like, yo, and I bought that beat. I had no bars for it, but I knew there was something there. And for
Mhm.
another song, same thing, Call Me, and I got it because I knew something was there, but I wasn't ready for it yet.
Mm.
2 years later, like swear to God, 2 years later, I came up with the hook. I was like, because we're kings, mother effer, when we walk into the building, same kings that's here when your body needs lifting. Because at that time I was like, people look at certain people as just like the big thing, and it's like, but they're not just that big person. Look at that person as the same person that's there to lift you up, you know.
Mhm.
And then most recently to a song that I wrote called "Call Me." I bought that beat. I had nothing for it, but about a year ago when I started writing for RITK2, um, my me and my ex girlfriend, we're very close. You know, shout out healthy relationships with your exes. But I was like, hey, if you ever need anything, call me. And I was like, hold up, that's a hook right there. You know, I'm
Yeah.
making love on the flat of my back. And you could da da da. And I was like, just call me. Um, so yeah, being open to that process, being open to anything. I don't know if that still clearly relates, but
No, I like it.
bam.
I mean, that makes perfect sense, and like I love that you are willing to put something down to pick it back up later.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, yeah.
Like when I was working on the book, and like right now I'm on my second book, and it's again it's a process of like, all right, I think I've worked on the outline for like 2 months, and
Nice.
finally it just came to me one night where I was like really working on it. It didn't feel like I was working on it because it was all mental, right? And so I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so this chapter is gonna be that. This chapter I don't really know about that, and then finally like a week ago the like final through line, like that put it all together,
Yeah.
clicked, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, cool. So here's the outline for the whole thing. Word, got it. And like that
Yeah.
process took a lot of me going, all right, it's not ready yet. Put it down,
Mm-hmm.
keep doing other stuff. When it's
Mm-hmm.
time, it'll click back together. But
Mm-hmm.
still pushing on process. And I mean, like when you're talking about this album, right?
Yeah.
And the process to not only pick up, put down, keep moving as you're creating this, but you're creating it during a period where there's not a lot of like external inspiration happening.
Yeah.
Collaboration really, we were all in our homes, we were bubbled up,
Yeah.
right? So like
You're giving me
come
PTSD, bro.
that's
You get me. Woo. You get.
so how
Don't
did you
describe it.
survive? That's the question, right? How if
Yeah.
you know how important it is to collaborate creativity with creativity, right? And like
Yeah.
working on this, and as much of writing music is an internal to external process, right? How did you put this joint together? And how did it feel to kind of work on it in that space?
That's a solid ass question, bro. That is a great question. I'm not even saying that to blow smoke.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, dude. That's like you guys record this for when this podcast blows up like the next Joe Rogan, but good. Um,
I will take that. I will happily take
yeah,
that.
man. Yeah, well, because you're right, dude. To put it in whew, to put it in perspective, when the pandemic happened, because we even touched on this previously. The pandemic, we went into lockdown in Los Angeles like the first week of March. I finished my 2 years of touring on the road, 2 years traveling almost every single day, driving in a van for like 4 hours. Yeah, dude, with three other grown men, we're all just farting and burping up a
Oh,
storm and shit.
dude.
Yeah, yeah. So I came back in October. So I had 3 months of like the goal was like, all right, I'm back. I've got all this. I'm gonna go out, and then the world's like, nah, bruh. Yeah, he's like, nah, you gotta chill out, bro. No live performances, no this, none of that.
Mm,
And it's I'm even like my brain's even getting moving thinking about it. You have to, as an artist, you have to reconfigure how you approach it, because at first, the first several months, it's like, all right, we're going to be out of this in a minute. Let me write the Pandemic Summer Pack, and that was my first EP that I put out when I moved back. uh, Time kept going that we were locked down,
yeah.
and Pandemic Summer Pack turned into Day 80,625. Yeah, which I'm sure you can already get the name. You're like, all right,
Yep.
we're getting some themes here. Yeah, man. Which
And
to talk about how people handle things, I wrote that verse because shout out my Lloyd Alquist, man. He put out a challenge to artists, dude. He said put out bars. He encouraged people to write, and I think even on an email he was like, bro, just write.
yeah.
So I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, dude. And as artists, dude, like when you have your art form, sometimes, dude, when crap like that happens, it's all that you have. And during the
Yeah.
pandemic, that's what it felt. It truly felt like
Yeah.
that for me, dude.
Mm,
I put out the Pandemic Summer Pack. I put out Day 80,025, and after that was when we really felt like we weren't getting out of stuff for a while. So I put out a New Age Robert Johnson, to my last EP, which was Warrior Poetry, and
okay.
those were all, yeah, those were all products of the pandemic. I can
Yeah.
easily say that there was no goal of, oh, I'm gonna blow up off of this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be famous. It was just like, yo, this is shit I gotta get out. This is shit that's
Yeah.
in me,
Yeah. It's the burden,
because
right?
the burden. Yeah, bro, the burden. Because I even told you before, which maybe this isn't the time to say it. I was hit by a car two
You
weeks
did mention
before.
this.
I mentioned that. Yeah, I got hit by a car and I hit my head, blacked out a little bit, and that twisted my head up a little bit. So now I'm in the pandemic, and I'm like, all right, how do I figure this out? And the answer was music, man. Music keeps me sane, bro. Sorry, I got my
Mm.
Cali girl over here right now. She's
Oh,
trying to
you're
get on this
good.
podcast too. Yeah, trying to get on. Heck
No, it's
yeah.
all good. That's powerful, though. I mean, during that time as well, I found my voice as a writer. Was
Yeah.
during the pandemic. I moved to San Francisco from Louisiana, like right in the middle of that,
Mm,
and I think a lot of us, I think the whole world went through a transformational period together, and we all got different
Yeah.
things out of it. I wouldn't say that we all ended up
Yep.
in the exact same place, but it
Yep.
was a
Yep.
reckoning, right? And so it's a
Yeah.
really cool process to see you end up here. Now looking back on it, a couple of years back into the real world,
That's right.
and so now you've got this double album. So what really drove the double album coming forward?
The double album was the double album was a product of like me thinking I as myself as an artist was like ready to finally like kind of, for lack of better words, start taking it more seriously. Because like as you know, like you mentioned, I think when the pandemic happened, we completely shifted. Maybe this is just my opinion, but we completely shifted from like a quality artist economy to like this content economy with
Yeah,
like
yeah,
TikTok and
absolutely.
just like, yeah, like volume. We just
Yeah.
want volume over quality. And I'm not one of those guys, dude. I hate to put it like this, but it's like there are artists like Drake who he does his thing and it works for him.
I
It
wasn't
works
even
for
gonna
him.
bring up Drake.
Yeah, dude. Because you brought up Kendrick, dude. You got artists like Drake who, and it
Yep.
works for him. It
It.
works for him. Watch out, NBC Universal. I already see them in my back window. You know, I know it's the reason I'm not blowing up. I take shots, dude. And so,
Listen, but Drake's
who,
that's true though. That's very true.
but it works for him. It
Yeah.
works. One more time for the people listening and in the back. It works for him. But there are other artists, man, who prefer quality over quantity, dude.
Yeah.
And it's almost even having to explain that to your fan base
Yeah.
of like, hey, man, I'm not gonna my music, like the example, Drake is able to put out music as pop
Sure.
albums, and you can get multiple writers and stuff like, and that's a source that you can come back to and create like that,
Absolutely.
Go to the club and write stuff. My music comes from, hurting my head and that exacerbating feelings of sadness,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
like, and so if I want to write like that, that means I'm sad. I can't be sad like that all the time, dude. You
Well,
know
I
what I
mean,
mean? Like,
this I totally get that. Content is business, right? Like, let's be very real about it. Content is business. I do content strategy sometimes for clients where we start thinking about
yeah,
shows, we start thinking about series, podcasts, long form, whatever. That's all business, right?
business. Yep.
And like you got to do it every day. It's one of those
Yeah.
things where if you're in that work, if you are going to take the Drake route, if you are going to take the I drop multiple times a year, do this kind of stuff, then like
Yeah.
yeah, there's a whole avenue for that has opened up over the
And it
last 10
works for those
years.
people.
It does, but it
Yeah.
takes
Yeah.
it's a different demand. It's a completely different
Yeah.
demand. The artists who
Almost
were
like a
doing this
different energy. Yeah.
beforehand, yeah, like who were not social media folk, right?
Yeah.
Who were creating and grinding out kind of alone, and then they would have
Yeah.
this tour or this campaign where they would kind of come out in front of
Yeah.
everybody, and then they'd go back to
Yeah.
being in their little hobbit hole, right? Like
That's right.
though that's how it was really up until the 2010s for
Yeah.
mostly all artists. Since then the
Yeah,
game
man.
has shifted a bit, and so I think there's a
Hmm.
respect to give it to, like, one, yes, there's a whole nother lane in this race now, but two,
Yeah.
there is respect for artists who are just rather be in their space and say like, yo,
Yeah.
I enjoy creating this because I enjoy creating. I feel this burden of weight to express myself, and so I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do it in this way. And like,
Yeah.
I wish more people could make that distinction, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you got to do content. You know this as well as I do, right? Like, we got to
Yeah.
post on a
Yeah.
regular basis, got to do this stuff.
Yeah.
But my art is on the side, right? Like my
Yeah.
social media content is not art. I'm sorry, I'm not that
Yeah.
guy, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And like it's a way to it, but I think for the respect that like we should have for artists who can clearly just say who they are and say like, here's how I'm showing up, here's what I'm doing, is I'm creating art, I create it on this basis, here's how it works. No, you're not going to see me on TikTok every day. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a job,
and,
right?
and dude, I pump the art like 100%. I pump the artists up that like who came up in this time and like found that middle ground. You
Yeah.
know, I look younger than I am. I'm an unk, dude. I'm an old head. So people are like, dude, why don't you do this TikTok? I'm like, that's not me, dude.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
90s kid, dude. Yeah, you know what I mean? Our like real talk. When I was with the Almighty, to take it back to them, if we were doing a show, our advertising was ciphering at our college, dude. It was legit. We'd be like,
Man,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We get a cipher circle. We'd be doing our thing, but like, all right, Merlin, St. James, do your thing. Shiv, do your thing. Split personality, do your thing.
you're throwing
And
back
that's
all
how we
kinds of
got
memories
parts.
right now.
I'm telling you, bro. But
You know,
I think then we got you always gotta have appreciation for your success, the people before you,
absolutely,
because that's where you learn to get the good stuff, man. You know,
absolutely.
so you young heads watching this, take some notes from this old head. You know, pump
And
me up a
like
little
take
bit,
some time
man.
and go back and listen to some old stuff. Listen to when guys had to
Yeah,
rap for breakfast. So
yeah. That
you've
first
got
Nas album, hell yeah,
right, like throw it back.
yeah.
So you've got a lot of stuff that you've accomplished over the last several years. Where are you headed next?
Well, like I mentioned before, the double album was to show the fans, I'm not dead. I got a pulse. You don't count me out. I'm still around. Because it was YouTube a lot for a long time because that was my market from the epic rap battles. Um, and I'll be real with you, man. The pandemic artistically took a lot out of me. I'm probably gonna clip this and show this. The pandemic took artistically a lot out of me, and this double album, um, it was supposed to be out just so people even know, and you'll relate to this. I had the songs ready back in like December, January,
Sure.
but you go and record and you're like, damn, this isn't it. The
Yep.
tonality isn't there, man. It's
Yep.
not it. March comes by, I try to re-record. I'm not catching it, dude. So dude, that was me feeling that and being
Yeah.
like, I can't give this to people authentically and be like, look, this is it.
Hmm.
um to coming back to this past September to even talk about the process a little bit, dude. When we to talk about community, I think artists need to do this process a little more often to develop themselves as an artist. And I
Hmm.
use that word artist like specifically because if
Yeah.
you're going to be doing this as a rapper, musician, hip hop artist, the word artist is in it. You got to take it seriously, man. You got to go to the studio. You got to have your bars memorized. You got to appreciate what you're doing. You got to appreciate the engineer's time, dude. To speak on that and community, when I first started going to the studio, um, I would find the engineers would be like, "Damn, dude, you got this memorized." I was like, "Yeah, you're supposed to, right?" Like, "Yeah, dude." And they're like, "Most people don't." And I'm like, "What the hell?" It's like no discipline these days. And I ran into a gentleman, dude, named Chris McMasters, dude. Hell of an engineer, dude.
Hmm.
Hell of an engineer who to talk about openness in the process, we would be recording music. I would give him the stems. The stems, for anyone listening, is the different wave tracks for when you're developing the music. He'd be like, "Hey, man, I got this crazy idea." He is not a hip hop artist. He is not a hip hop producer. He is techno. And I was like, "Go for it, dude." And he would do some of the coolest stuff, and it would come out different.
Yeah.
Kids want to go and put on my track, "Call Me," dude. He put in a whole ass like an interlude that's just like like crazy, and I could never do that. And I
Hmm.
appreciated that he could. We left it in there, dude. For one of my songs, reintroducing the kid, did the same thing. He goes, I go to the bathroom like you're saying. I'm like, "Yo, bro, I gotta go to the bathroom." I come back. He goes, "Bro, look what I just did." Puts in a whole interlude at the end of the song. At the end of the song, I know one thing when I spit, man, I'm gonna taint every mic. And he repeated it multiple times. That track was supposed to be just a cipher, and he gave it a hook, and it was grooving. I was like, dude, f my ego, keep that shit, bro. And but yeah, that's Chris McMasters. God
Hmm.
bless him, dude. He moved to Texas, and he came back, and this is almost connecting into spirituality. When I found out he moved back from Texas to Los Angeles, I was like, "That you're my engineer, bro.
Hmm.
Let's get to work." And for 1 month, dude, I went in there like once to twice a week, bars memorized, songbook ready. I was doing the Instagram lives.
Oop, did we lose you there for a sec? I think we may have just lost him. Powerful story though. While we're waiting for him to come back, I'm just going to go ahead and throw my 2 cents that like, there's a lot of discipline that goes into these creative endeavors, these creative projects. And as an artist, sometimes we talk about expressing ourselves and what that looks like and what that feels like. And we forget that there's also a training regimen to it. There's a line I used to hear that hip hop is a professional sport. And I used to say that art is a professional sport, like to a level of training and discipline and work that goes into it. Oh, Rob, oh no. It's so important to have that installed and have that instilled inside of you. And so, taking the time to show up at the box, show up at the studio every day, to work on the writings, to work on those pieces is so important because it allows us to develop, kind of the muscle memory so that when you don't want to do it, you still can, right? When you are inspired and the spark kicks off and then it dies off, like, I don't know where to go from here. This is the thing that's going to matter the most. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for our first talks in hip hop coming back. I really enjoyed the conversation today with Rob. I don't know how frequently I'll be doing these. I'm getting back into the rotation of just doing these more often, but I want to have conversations with everybody. So excited to have you on one day. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a great Friday and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Peace.